In this video, we'll be going over how to create a desert shrine environment using the creator tools. So in comparison to our other videos, this is going to be pure environment creation as opposed to using UI within the experience. So the first thing we're going to do in the scene is we already have our landscape set up and we have a water plane and a landscape material on this. That's simply just a Megascans material. So using the spline biome, what we've essentially done is blocked out an area around this oasis, and that's exactly what we're going to create with the PCG system. So obviously the system by default is set up for forests, and as we're in the desert, we will want to reduce the density right down on this one, so it's looking a bit more dead and, desert deprived. So the great thing with PCG is obviously these rocks we've added now don't really work, so we'll simply just swap that for another asset, and that's looking better already. And that's really handy for us as we know that asset doesn't work anymore, but we have found one that does, so we can reuse these assets in the other systems to get a bit of coordination between them all. So we just need to go through now essentially and swap the other meshes, which are still set to placeholders. So we'll add some palms, and once again the density is really high, so we'll just reduce these, and that's a little bit better now. So we're really getting a sense that this is an oasis and the foliage is growing around this water now. And the next thing I want to do is just get our rocks a bit more prominent in the scene. So we just play around with the scale. And as you can see at the moment, the meshes are currently getting cooled. So we're going to want to swap this. So to do that, we'll open up the blueprint. We'll go to PCG. We'll open up our graph. And with the static mesh spawners, we'll just want to either type cull, or we can head down to the volumes here. And we can just increase these values. So by default, they're set to lower values, and this is for optimization, but you can simply just increase the culling distance on these, save the system, and then the objects will be able to be viewed from a further distance. So super simple, we'll save that, and now as you can see, the culling is acting from a bit further away. And obviously, if this is still too low, then you can just increase these values even further. And now we're just going to start by sculpting some extra areas into our landscape using the landscape tools. And our water plane we've added earlier is obviously a bit too small now, so we'll probably want to increase this a little bit more as well later on. And let's just drag our biome a bit further down the river now. So because we've already set the system up already, we simply just need to drag the spline along to expand it. Now we're going to use the large assembly, and we're going to use this actually for cliff faces. So we'll drag in our Megascans asset, and as you can see, the foliage is getting scattered on the top and the crevices in the mesh. And as well as that, by default, this system has landscape scattering attached around its vicinity, and that can either be increased or it can be disabled completely. So let's just start by dragging in our extra assets that we have from the June Desert Pack. And we'll just swap these meshes to once again get it embedded into the landscape. And I think what's great with this system is we have these little rocks which are scattering onto the landscape. So it kind of looks like the cliff's broken up a little bit and these rocks have actually fell off it. So it helps bring a bit of character and story to our scene. And as we have one system set up now, we can simply just duplicate the large assembly and create a new one, and we'll have a completely new seed. So it's really handy to block out areas of your scene really fast. And the great thing as well is, if we're happy with the scattering system but not the mesh, we can simply just swap the mesh which is being put in the instance, and then we can have a completely new system. And as you can see here, we're using the same system just underneath the landscape. And as we have scattering on landscape from these systems, it will just place a few rocks just above on the landscape. And we're just doing a few manual tweaks now to actually increase the area of where our temple is going to be later on in the video. And we're just using our large assembly holders once again to really block out this section of the scene. On these particular meshes, we've actually disabled the PCG as well, and we're just using these as raw assets. So it's really up to you, whichever method you do. You can use the large assembly holders with disabled PCG, or you can actually just place the meshes as usual. And this is acting as our entrance to our shrine now. And let's begin the temple creation. And all of these assets are from Megascans, and we have a couple of custom assets as well from different packs and things like that. But we really want to show you how you can create a scene just using Megascans essentially. So all of these assets can be found on the marketplace or Quixel Bridge. And there's our water plane appearing from earlier. So we need to start by adding a bit of character and story to the scene. So we're going to start by adding some more custom Egyptian assets into the scene. And you can find similar assets on things like Sketchfab or Bridge. And now we want to direct the user to the temple. So we're going to be creating a bit of leading lines, essentially, to guide the user to this temple. And as well as the PCG systems, it's really important to add some manual touches as well. So we're just going to use the foliage brush here to add a bit of background details on the shoreline. And it's really great using both of these systems in parallel, as you can really fine tune your scene with that finishing touches. And we're just using a basic decal material here to actually add some hieroglyphs to the sides of the walls. And let's just use some light blockers, and this is going to help with our lighting and bounce light in the scene. And it's also going to act as, you know, a barrier to basically reduce the amount of assets we need in the background of the scene. And we're starting to get there now. I think we just need to add a few finishing touches. Once again, we've just used the foliage tool to create a bit of rocks on the shoreline, and we'll add a couple more large assemblies and some houses and barrels and things like that to really give a bit of story to the scene. And yeah, we're really happy with how this one turned out. It's a bit of a different scene for us, but as you can see, something like this is super easy to create. So thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.